Welcome
Buddy,
back to the Boundary Corner podcast celebration.
cheers, buddy. Cheers. Victory. Victory.
Sweet like the scotch I am drinking, my friend. Buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I spent my night over at Hardywood Park in West Creek drinking
Nice.
some Fighting Hokies lager, watching the Hokies upstairs with some fellow alumni and some other folks for that showed up. Just a big party over there. They had the projector up. Pretty solid event.
Very nice, man. I was solo here at the house, all by myself. No one bothering me. Love my wife for that. But
My
dude,
wife came with me. My wife's a Hokie though, so she.
your wife drove you home.
There we go. That helped too. That was a big benefit.
There. Shout out to your wife for driving me home tonight. All right.
There we
So
go.
first of all, Brian, let's start with this. It's 5:59. You're at Hardywood. I'm here at the house, and they're still showing tennis.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
Are you kidding me? And I'm sure it's contractual and stuff. And all of a sudden, it flips. And dude, there's a sea of orange in the stands.
Lane looked gorgeous tonight.
She looked beautiful. The entrance sounded great. Give ESPN's production team a shout out. The intro sounded great. The run-in sounded great. And then, man, all night, the Terror Dome was back.
Yeah, it was loud all night. They were in the game. Looks like the GA and North End Zone is working as expected.
The students did not leave.
Yeah.
And it was loud. It was really loud. I know going to one of the breaks, I don't know if they had the volume there. They were showing a highlight from one of the other games, and Jason Benintendi and Andre Ware was like, "We have no clue what you just said because it is freaking loud here.
We can't hear shit."
We can't hear anything that you're talking about because it is loud." And I don't know if you noticed it, Brian, and this was just cool to see, and again it brings me back to when we were there, what we grew up on. For all the young kids tonight, this is what we grew up on. This was the Terror Dome. And Chris Fowler said it. He spent a lot of raucous nights at Lane Stadium since '99, and it's cool to see and hear it like it was in the glory days. And a performance versus a very good team was worth the Sandman run out. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
they earned it.
They did. We earned it tonight.
You have salmon. It's special. It's a great tradition, but you also need to go out there and get the W. And we went out there and got the W. And I think that's just as important as everything else. And I'm glad that we were able to really put together a solid game front to back. There were some things here or there that we could talk about, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But I mean, this was a completely different looking Virginia Tech team than what I thought we would see tonight.
Same here. I thought we would look okay on defense, and let's start there. But I did not think we'd look like that, man. And I'm going to let's just take our hats off and give him a tip. And I'm going to turn it around now. Tip the hat to Jay Ham. He had a hell of a game plan, and he called a hell of a game, in my opinion.
Yep. He knew right away what he wanted to take away from that North Carolina offense, and he said, we're gonna make Sam Howell beat us through the air or with his legs. We're not going to let you use that RPO, that rushing attack. We're not going to let you feast like you did last year. We're going to shut that shit down, and you're going to have to beat us with your arm through the air with a couple of your key pieces out for this game.
And he did it. And he did it on every down, whether it be getting sacks. But, Brian, they were 4 for 13 on third and fourth down. 4 for 13. You don't win
That
games.
offensive line was confused. They never really picked up what we were doing consistently on the defensive line throughout that game. Um,
Absolutely.
they were just consistently just off balance, and there's no other way to say it. They were off balance all night. We kept them off balance on the offensive line. If you can do that, you got a good chance to win the game.
Exactly. Now they had 146-yard rushing, but Brian, we were looking here at the stats. 69 of those came on 3 runs.
Yep.
You
And
look at
almost half of that came on 1 run to close out the half, where we were in prevent.
we were in prevent. They decided to run the ball, so that was impressive. It just showed Ham knew what they wanted to do, and he was not going to let them have it. Made some really good adjustments, as you mentioned already. But let's start. Brian, I am having a 12-year-old Scotch, man. And this is only the first. I'm not smashed yet. And I don't plan to smash because, tomorrow's Saturday and I've got things to do. But I'm enjoying a victory drink. But let's talk D-line because, dude, everybody on the defensive line, everybody that played had an impact.
Yeah, that's the best defensive line play in a single game that I've seen in a while from a Hokies unit. Barno just looked like there were some plays where he was just unblockable.
True.
And then you had Garbett came in, got 2 sacks, looked like he's back to where we saw him before.
Yeah.
So if we can get that for 12 games, then we've got defensive ends that can make some noise.
You damn right we do. Now I love what they were doing with Barno in some of the 3-down sets when they would have him standing up, and he would be he'd be at like 9 standing up, and the next thing you know, he's running in, and he's almost in the middle of between the guard and the center, just like standing up, showing his head in there. They dropped him some. Barno is a freak. There's no way to put that. He is a freak. And if he plays like he did tonight in the upcoming games, everybody enjoy it this year because he will not be here next year. If Ty Garbett plays like he did tonight, you're talking book rush ends who can get to the quarterback. And then, Brian, let's talk about all the defensive tackles, man. All of those guys.
They were disruptive in the pass game. They were disruptive in the run game. Run game consistently, they clogged up the middle. If they were going to get a run, it was going to be in the spill area. They weren't running up the middle on this defense. It was as good as I've seen our interior rush defense in a while. And it starts. Pollard had a hell of a game. Kendricks had a hell of a game. Kendricks multiple times on stunts getting to the quarterback, multiple times on stunts and slants, disrupting the play, making the running back run the hump, stringing it outside, and letting the guys out there take care of it.
Yep. And Williams the same way. I saw Williams on a couple slants too. Quick slant gets inside. Next thing you know, the pocket is doing this. And he's having to run the hump. They knew what they were executing, and they went after it hard. And
Williams didn't get that highlight play like the other guys did, but Williams was so consistent all night if you go back and watch the tape.
Every time. And by the way, shout out Josh Fuga playing that 0 a couple times and just holding point of attack.
Yep.
That's what he did. That's his job, and he did it good. I want to know what happened to his head, though. I think Carolina took a cheap shot at him. He came back in a couple plays, but he was laying on the ground holding his head, pointing. And when I see something like that happen, I immediately think somebody took a cheap shot. But ESPN's production crew, slap you on this. Y'all don't like to show replays at certain times. Brian, they gashed us last year.
Yep.
Gashed. We've already mentioned the stats. You take away those 3 big runs, and they on the other 27 carries, they barely averaged, 3 a play, which is impressive. Why? What was the difference between this year and last year?
I mean, the big thing is that we were gap sound across the board. The defense operated the way it should because we were gap sound. If you're gap sound, you're pushing rushing plays out to the spill area. You're letting your whip, you're letting your nickel, you're letting your safeties kind of clean up the mess. Last year we didn't do that enough. B gap was like we said the other night. You could run a damn truck through it.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Not this year.
One or two runs here or there, and one of those was a quarterback scramble. The other was one play where we gave up the edge.
Yep.
And Chandler was able to get, I think it was like a 15 or 20 yard run out of it. But other than that, the only other big rush was a meaningless rush before halftime.
Exactly.
But the bigger thing, other than the gap sound, like that's important from a technical standpoint, but just from a mental standpoint, this defense did not play timid or hesitant like they did at so many points of last season.
True.
So many points of last season, they were essentially waiting for the play to come to them instead of attacking it. And some of that comes from repping enough to where I know what I'm doing, so I don't think about what I'm doing. I just see it and react. And they were doing a lot more of that tonight, and they were playing with confidence. And that's another thing we didn't see last season. They looked like they were confident that they were going to win that game right out the jump, and that never wavered.
Yep. And you say that not being hesitant, not being timid. We already mentioned the sack, 6. Brian, we had 9 tackles for loss. We had 15 plays in their backfield on 65 snaps. That's just at one of every 4 where we made a play in the backfield. That's not even counting pressures. That's not counting hits. And Sam Towell took some hits tonight. But, Brian, you talked about the gap. Last year, our linebackers, we played like dog shit versus them. This year, hell of a different story. And, I mean, Alan Tisdale
balled out tonight. If this is the Tisdale, the new and improved Tisdale, we're in for a pretty big year because he played very well tonight. He was sound, but he also was flashing that athleticism and making plays behind the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And just completely taking away their ability to consistently get to where they wanted to in the rushing game.
Yep. 7 tackles, 1 for loss, and a sack. Hell of a game for him, man. Yep. And a couple times you saw him play spy. He was dropping in coverage. He was coming on some blitzes. And at 228, he did not look a bit slower than he did at 218 or 215.
Nope, and he played much better inside the box than he did at any point last season, and really at any point in terms of that's the most consistent whole game I've seen him put to tape. So I'm hoping that that's a sign of things to come for him, because if that's the case, like, I feel pretty good about this linebacker core.
I do too.
Let's talk about the next one though, Dax Hollifield.
Oh man, the towel waving. Dax was solid all night. He had 4 tackles. He had half a tackle for loss, also half a sack. He was helping. He cleaned up on a sack where essentially it looked like Hal's pretty much down, but he came in there and made sure he put him down. But every time, there are 3 plays that I want to talk about, and I can't remember exactly when. One, they ran an outside type run, almost like a sweep type play. And he got out there and he set the edge. He did not let the guy drive him. He did not get off of the tackle. And in that case, I know there's been discussion. He doesn't know how to get off blocks. In that case, I asked you, Brian, I'm like, is that the right play? And you're like, yeah. He held the edge. He spilled back inside in the alley. Everybody was there to clean up. He gets off of it. He helps clean it up. Done. The second play, and you probably remember this one, they did get a good RPO run, and he stepped right into the B gap, made the tackle, fell down. It was a 3-yard gain, right where he needed to be.
Yep.
And the third play, his interception. Got an interception. I was told by certain people anybody could make that interception. But here's the deal with that. And Brian, you mentioned it when he even played backer. He's always in where he's supposed to be in the right spot. If you look at that play, he is supposed to be in the 5 to 10 yard zone drop. That was his position. He didn't deviate from it. He didn't go freelance. He didn't come up to the line. He stayed right there. And when Norpel Pollard got up in that play, beat the guard, gets the hand, makes the tip, Dax is exactly where he needs to be. He has to make an athletic move, makes the interception. 3 times, he did the right plays. We were lined up right all night. He was getting the crowd going. Actually, multiple players on the defense were just raising it up, and the crowd were responding. If I see that play with Dax all year where he's getting 4 tackles, everybody's lined up, he's in the right spots, he's setting the edge. You said it with Tisdale. I feel really good about this defensive linebacking core because there's one more guy we got to talk about. We did it,
yes,
Brian.
There is.
We finally did it.
Shamari Connor slid inside and played linebacker on a handful of snaps. And we talked about that potentially being something that they might do to mix things up, and they finally went to it. We also, we'll get to it a little bit, but part of that was part of the true nickel package that we rolled out there. And then some other plays, it was just, okay, well, situationally, let's get Dax off the field. We'll move Shamari in there. And it worked. And it kept North Carolina off balance all night. They really never felt comfortable in their game. Sam Howell never got comfortable in this offense the whole night.
No, he did not. He looked like a couple times deer in headlights.
Yep.
And I've said it 4 times now. He got popped more than one occasion tonight. When he ran, he paid. When he stood there trying to make throws, he paid. And I like getting that on tape because the next quarterback's going to be sitting there looking at it and be like, God, man, that Barno guy at 260 bearing down on me. I'm going to probably throw the ball a couple seconds earlier than I probably should.
Yeah, and let's talk about Barno a little bit more before we move on. Barno putting on some size, still has the speed, still has the athleticism, and like I said, just making plays, man.
11 everywhere on the field defensively, everywhere.
Yeah, all over the place, man, all over the place.
You do we give kudos to J-Ham coaching the safeties and rotating guys in and out, not playing favorites? We saw Hunter, we saw Tay Daly.
Yep.
We saw Keonta Jenkins. Who am I missing? And Nasir Peoples.
Nasir Peoples.
Tackles.
Nasir Peoples had 6 tackles. He was in there making plays. All 4 safeties had moments where they did well. I know Hunter didn't log a tackle, but he was at the right place, making sure that the ball carrier went where it needed to in the run game. What I saw out of Keonta Jenkins, what I saw out of Tay Daly, and what I saw out of Nasir Peoples, all of it was good. And if we've got a 4-man rotation like that at safety,
it's good.
I'm cool with that by committee because I mean we saw Daly make a bunch of plays. We saw him make a really damn good play that should not have been PI that got called PI, and he was consistently. I mean,
garbage.
I love seeing 17 back out there because I mean. We love Diablo. It's nice seeing 17 back out there.
Absolutely.
So, Tay Daly, shout out. Good job repping the 17 tonight.
Damn good job repping 17. And the play he got a PI on was just complete bullshit. He was literally trying to make a play. And, Brian, you talked about where his arms were when we were getting ready to come on here. It's like he was literally – the only thing he was trying to do was get to the ball. It was incidental.
He didn't do that hip wrap that gets called a lot, especially in the NFL. He was right on the hip pocket, rotated to get his shoulder in front, reached out. There was a little bit of contact with the shoulder, but he was clearly going for the ball. I mean, that's very incidental, and he had position to make that play. It wasn't like he knocked the receiver off of a line to get there. So definitely that one should have been let go there, but whatever. We won the game.
Exactly. All right, let's roll up into the corners because I think tonight, because because when we went to that nickel, Waller played the nickel corner.
Yep.
And in that, you know what I have shades of thinking about it now, Brian?
What you got?
Kyle Fuller playing nickel.
Yeah.
Because Waller's physical as shit.
Yeah.
And the way Strong and Armani can cover on the outside, it's awesome. Let's talk about Armani Chapman, man. He was rotating.
Chapman played a hell of a game. I love seeing him rotating in outside when they went with the nickel packages. He was kind of swapping out with Strong, keeping those guys fresh.
Yep.
And he had a couple big plays in the running game, a couple big hits.
Oh, what a big hit!
Yeah.
He killed 26. He killed number 26, dude. He essentially forced the guy to miss that block, and he popped that kid and turned him over. And that kid was sitting there like, you could see he was just like, I did not like getting hit like that. Some good pass breakups by Armani. He had 2 pass deflections tonight. I mean, tackle, the pass deflections that tackle was such a big tackle because on that swing pass, it was set up good. When he beat his guy, it was this whole, if he gets him, it's a 4 to 5 yard loss. He got him, he made him pay, he made him think, and it put them behind the chains where they were consistently all night. Yep. And I mean, if we're going to consistently do the nickel package thing, it is going to benefit all 3 of these guys. It's also going to benefit. There's going to be, I'll say this right now after game 1. I'll feel comfortable if they, on base packages, let Jermaine get a breath.
Yeah.
The way Armani and Dorian played?
Yeah, and let's talk about it too. I mean, I know we've already touched on linebacker, but it helps play to Dax's strengths and minimizes his weaknesses as well.
Very true.
Because now you're not only taking Connor out of a potential man-to-man mismatch against a slot player like Downs. Yes. Moving him where he's probably more responsible for a running back or a tight end in that type of positioning. And he can definitely handle that, whereas Dax may struggle with that potential a little bit. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can benefit us having that true nickel set out there, especially when you're able to take advantage of it and you don't get kind of caught in no man's land with a sub or anything like that. So,
exactly. All right, let's flip it over. We've already talked about him, Jermaine Waller. That pick, he took not only that ball, he took that wide receiver's soul when he rolled on him. And then there was argument.
He broke on that. It was already a catch. And he said, "Nope, that's mine. That's mine."
He loosened it, then he got
snatched
it, and he rolled on it. And man, it was beautiful. And I want to maybe, hopefully, in the next few days here, Brian, we can see some of the data. But I want to say, all of Downs' catches, Waller is when we were in the base. Is when Chamari there. No knock on Chamari.
No.
But I don't think Downs
the one play, I mean, there's a bunch of plays. I mean, teams are going to get yards. Shit happens. Yes. There was only one play that I looked at tonight and I was like, damn, that really shouldn't have happened. And that was that tunnel screen that Downs took to the house.
Yep.
No issue with that being a 15 or 20 yard gainer, but we should have had somebody in position there to make a play, get him to the ground, make sure that didn't turn into a touchdown.
Yeah, and that's what it did. And I think that might have been their biggest pass play of the night. Let me get Downs' numbers up here. Yeah, 37-yard touchdown was his biggest pass play of the night. He went 8 for 123. The rest of the crew didn't do too much. Next post 3 for 46. So again, secondary balled out. Shout out before we get to the last corner. We've already talked about Chamari Connor quite a few times. A hell of an ankle tackle on Downs. If Chamari doesn't make that tackle, Downs is way downfield. And then that last pick, he got the hand under and he held on to it. And they reviewing it because what happened is when he went down, he had the ball secured, but when he popped up, it looked like maybe the Carolina guy nudged him or something, popped up, and they're like, oh, did he catch it? And it's like he was literally laying on the ground, his hand under the ball, his knees on it. Him trying to stand up, you can't even rule because College football is down by contact, or it's not down by contact. It's down in general. So if
Yep.
he has the ball secure when he's laying on the ground, it doesn't make a shit what happens when he pops up. I don't know why they even looked at it, but maybe they were trying to find some for Carolina
I
to win
guess
this.
maybe they thought that didn't have a hand. I don't know.
All right,
Whatever they were looking for wasn't there. So
all right, Brian, real quick. Dorian Strong, the freshman All American. I didn't see a regression from him tonight, man. Gave up some plays, but those plays, it looks like we were in that quarters coverage you talked about, where it's like, okay, you're going to get 12 yards and a first down, cool, but you ain't getting shit else.
yeah, and he had a couple where he was out there kind of with 50-50 balls, especially that one of the last ones that was thrown to the end zone that he went up, made a big play, made sure the ball didn't get caught there in the end zone. So he had a really good night. Like you said, kind of steady. Made plays we need to, but I think one thing that's improved a little bit for him is the tackling.
Oh, yeah. I think he's bigger.
We saw it towards the end of last season, but those plays now where you're catching the 8-yard out, the 8-yard curl. He's making sure that's a tackle every time. It might move the sticks, but it's not turning into something worse. And I think that's big for us. And he was solid all night. Like I said, I was really impressed with the 50-50 balls that he was able to win and keep those guys out of the end zone.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to go through here on the roster real quick because I feel like the last time I looked, he was waiting at 175. And just looking at him out there tonight, Brian, and let me get there quick. Efforting. I don't think he's 174. He looks bigger.
And some guys play bigger, man.
But he looks bigger. He looks physically bigger. And I'm wondering if it's the old Robbie Compton thing he talked about on the coaching or on the clinics. Hey, we're gonna list Dorian at 175, but he's 190. Well, what did he check in before spring weight started? 174. That's what we're listing him at. So I think he's playing bigger. He looked good. The cornerbacks look good. Shout out Jamari Connor leading the team in 8 tackles along with that pick. I'm just going. I don't want to label it. But I'm pulling out some from behind here, Brian. That's a cut from 2004.
Okay.
Those defenses from 2004 and up to about 2010, it took me back. We popped the shit out of people tonight. We were rushing. With the exception of them breaking a nice 20-yarder here and there, they weren't getting anything. They weren't getting the mid games.
Yeah.
It took me back. And then with the crowd as loud as it was,
the crowd got in, stayed in. The defense was making plays all over the field. They got turnovers, which is something that we need to start doing consistently again. So it was nice to see that. But like I said, the biggest thing to me was that we looked like we had an identity. We had a purpose. We were playing fast and loose, but still solid in our technique and being where we need to be. And
freaking absolutely.
Yeah.
And Fuente said it in the interview with TSL a couple months ago. We could not establish our identity last fall. And whether you love Fuente or you hate Fuente and loathe him, or you're like us, where you're somewhere in the middle where we believe he's a good coach. Is he the right fit here? Maybe, maybe not. But if that's the identity of the team, the way we ran the ball, the big plays, which we're going to talk about in just a couple minutes here, he's found the identity, especially on defense. And having somebody like Jay Ham in that personality run it, where he'll call you out, and he's going to talk to those guys, and he's going to read them. Man, I don't know. All right, Brian, anything else on the defensive side of the ball in your notes there that you want to discuss?
That's all I got, buddy.
Oh, one last thing. Sam Howell, career 68 completion percentage. Tonight, 51.
That took a hit.
Yeah, it took a big hit tonight. And with that, before we jump into the offensive side of the ball tonight, we are going to take a quick break, and we're going to go to our digital partners.
As we take a quick break, we'd like to tell you about getting your free website report from our digital partner, Grassroots Digital Marketing Studio. They'll tell you how your website ranks on Google, on-site SEO, and social media. No commitment to buy anything. You can get your free report by visiting grassrootsdigitalstudio.com/free-website-report. Now back to the episode.
All right, Brian.
We back.
Well, we're back. We've got to say it. Props to, say it with me, Brian.
Brad Cornelson. There is a caveat to this, but overall, that was a well-called game by him. He did what he needed to do, call-wise, to keep them off balance, especially early, and get us the lead. Good job of kind of peppering different areas of that defense, not just leaning on one area or the other, not taking too many. When it got to critical third downs, he wasn't kind of going back to the old faithful. There was a lot of difference and mixed up calls on
there was no
downs.
quarterback power tonight.
What? Blasphemy!
Quite a few jet sweeps that worked.
A lot of jet sweeps, and most of them were effective.
Very effective. But no quarterback powers. The one thing that kind of got me when we had the lead going into the second half was he did get ultra conservative. I mean, he got into a shell and was almost like, it felt like 15 years ago.
Yeah,
and he would do that crap. Like
we were definitely we were playing to protect the lead at that point, and I get that. And I'm going to throw it up here on the screen. Cam makes a good point. Did we agree with the conservative calls before half? I'm torn. I'm a guy. I'm aggressive. If I got a team that's reeling, I want to step on their damn throats. So it wasn't something that I liked. But if you poll 10 coaches, 6 of them would agree with what he did. So,
but the whole piece is, I think what you can do, Brian, and what they've got to look at doing is, it's the safe aggressiveness. It's running a tunnel screen. It's running a running back screen, here's a play. If you hit and it hits good, you can go try to get points. If it doesn't hit, nothing is lost. And I think too many times we see not enough coaches do that, where it's like you need to have – it's almost like these guys getting paid 6 figures a year don't sit here and say, well, I'm going to choose 4 plays, and they're all pretty safe. Unless somebody does something, Julius Peppers-esque or Sean Taylor-esque, and I'm putting some older names out there because those guys were freaks and could do crazy shit. D'Angelo Hall-esque.
Yeah.
Unless a guy does something insane, this is going to be a safe play.
Yeah. Now,
worst that can happen, it can get dropped. We stop the clock. But in reality, we look at the time on the clock. If we punt it deep, they're probably not getting back, right? The reality is, yeah,
they ended up moving it kind of close. They were just close enough there that if they wanted to take a shot, they could have got it to the end zone.
Well, they didn't get one Hal field though.
If Hal got a full crow hop, he could have got it to like the 4 or 5 yard line.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But the whole piece is, have plays in your back pocket. I know you love throwback screens because you could peel off and go kill a defensive back.
Oh yeah, I love knocking the piss out of guys that are smaller. Yeah, that's always fun.
But it's the whole, have some in your pocket that's safe, that if you don't execute it well, it's going to fall to the ground. It's like, okay, we're going to give them 20 extra seconds. Our defense is playing good. So I didn't like that. I also didn't like the way we kind of went into the shell in the second half. And again, I think it's the whole. You asked me
what he's weird because he got conservative when we had the 2-score lead, but actually started mixing it up again once it was back to 1 score.
Yeah.
So some of the calls once we got it back to 1 score were a little bit more what we anticipated, because I don't mind going a little conservative, but as you said, it's like it's a calculated risk that you want to take with some play calls. Not you can't go full conservative where okay, well, we got to hope that even with a stacked box, we're going to break this inside zone for 7 or 8 yards here. You know, I mean, you can't do that. You can't just keep pounding it against the line, or throwing those like real quick bubbles and tunnels to the wide receiver and hoping that they break out. They're playing us like that now, knowing that hey, they're going conservative. We can play them like this. Hopefully, stuff them up and get the ball back. And they did for a good stretch there, and that we made a couple mistakes on offense as well that kind of exacerbated that a little bit.
Yep. All right, Brian, I'm gonna throw a stat at you, and you tell me if you would live with this all year. If we converted 50% of third downs all year, would you be happy?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. If we can get between 50 and 60 most games, I'd be happy with that, especially with what is supposed to be an improved Carolina defense, and I think overall they were improved. Yeah. They did a good job of overall of taking away some of our big play potential there. But we were able to consistently get yards when we needed to, and I think that was the big thing, is that we weren't always consistently moving the ball, but we got the ball where it needed to be at big times in the game.
Absolutely. And folks, if you look at the stat line, it's going to say 6 for 13. The last non-third down conversion was Braxton kneeing the game out. So reality, 6 of 12. And Brian, 50% last year would have been a top 10. Think about that. Right, so there's some wiggle room to be an elite conversion team, which if this team runs the ball like that and converts, it's you watch out now. All right, so let's jump. We're gonna look at a couple of the positions. Let's start with the running back rotation, Brian.
Okay.
First, because after that we are gonna go to the offensive line, and I'm just gonna shut up for a little while. But I mean, let's be honest. The one thing that we have been heavily critical of Brad Cornelison since he's been here is occasionally he does not use running backs right.
Yeah.
And me and you talk. We feel this is an agreement. We feel he actually used them correctly tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he used Raheem Blackshear heavily in the passing game, whether it was running some wheel routes, kind of using him as check downs, little quick outs, little flats, screens, obviously. But they did everything they could to get him the ball in space, or the ball where he can catch it, turn, and make some plays. And he was able to get that big one early in the game that really kind of set up how this game ended up playing out. When we talked the other day about what we needed to do to win this game, it was be effective at moving the ball with the running backs, with some of our other guys that weren't necessarily outside. And I think we did that early. We get James Mitchell involved early, get Raheem Blackshear in the screen game and in the passing game. And we were able to get that first score, and that kind of set the tone. And then the defense came out and did what they did. So good job with the running back rotation to start there. I think with Raheem was effective at times in the running game as well, in terms of just taking the handoff. We had a lot of plays where we were handing it off to him in that kind of that lull period of the offense in the second half, where they had a pretty stacked box. That definitely hurt his overall yard per carry. But I think in the first half he was pretty effective. He didn't have any sort of big runs, but he had a handful of solid runs.
Yep. Somewhere between 3 and 5 every time early.
Yeah.
What really hurt him was a couple of times he got caught in the backfield, and one of the plays was that it was the field side, and they called a banger. It's like the safety was supposed to come down, and he completely wiped it like 5 or 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
And there was another play just, I think, before the Mitchell touchdown, if I recall, where it might have been on another drive where
he dropped it. He dropped the handoff. Where if you looked at that play, I'd love to. We're gonna have to somehow figure out kind of get the game tape in here, Brian, because I feel like if you looked at that run, it was going to be an off tackle play, and there was some room for him to work.
Yeah,
Actually,
well,
very
if he would
positive
have been
play.
kind of like set it up outside and then put his foot in the dirt and got upfield, there was
Gone.
an
It was
alley.
been a touchdown. Yeah,
There
there's a
was an
big alley
alley.
there.
So,
So yeah,
but
but I think although they weren't on the field at the same time, I think how much better do you feel this year about the way they're using Raheem Blackshear compared to last year?
much better, much better. And it was nice seeing him actually getting the official start there on the first series. And they came out and okay, well, all right, you got Raheem starting, and then they actually used him the way they should use him. Like right off the gate, I was like, okay, I can work with
Yeah.
this.
Oh
I
yeah,
can work with this.
and Brian, but on the first drive though, they used all three backs.
Yeah,
Jalen comes in, gets some carries.
Jalen came in right after the big wheel route to Raheem Blackshear, gets a good carry. I think King got a 2 or 3 yard gain on the run later in that drive, and then they closed it out with a score.
Yep, we actually Braxton closed it out with the
Braxton,
run.
yeah.
I'm not sure if that play was designed that way, but it worked kind of right. I think it was supposed to be a sweep, but it wasn't. Um, but overall, we only went for 127 rushing, which is not compared to what we were doing last year, not a big number. But we got the win because, again, it was your point. They started stacking the box. We played ultra conservative for a while there. Jalen to me had a good game. They used Jalen for what Jalen's supposed to be.
Yep.
Bigger guy, let him wear on people, and just
hit them between
overall,
the tackles, and with the way this defense likes to go multiple and really kind of brings pressure in the run game in the spill areas of the defense. Working between the tackles with Holston is probably the best course of action there. We're still waiting to see if any of these backs are going to be a game breaker type play, even occasionally, like Khalil Herbert was last year. That remains to be seen. But if we can get consistent play out of these three backs, then that's going to be important. I was sad to see the costly fumble from Keyshawn King, unfortunately, and then he didn't really get a touch after that. So I don't know if that's a doghouse situation or what, but I'm hoping that he gets a good amount of run in next week's game.
Yes,
and I really want to see what he can do in this offense.
It's true. And unfortunately, on that fumble, if you look on the left side of the field, there's no one there. They've committed to the box. If he makes one cut and runs a hump, he's probably got the corner.
He's got the speed to probably get the corner there. So.
He's probably got the speed to get the corner. So it's just one of those things. He was in on kickoff return duty, although we didn't get a chance to. So not maybe halfway in the doghouse, but I don't recall him coming back in and getting any more carries. But overall, solid night from the running back room, especially after losing Herbert for last year. Again, they're just scary enough. They're just scary enough to make people think about things in their own little way. All right, Brian. Christian Darrisaw was the first-round pick. We had to figure out what to do with Nestor and Hudson leaving. What did you think of the line as a whole? And then I want you to focus on the right side because we saw everybody on the right side of the line, it felt like.
I think the offensive line, they did a really good job of not getting bullied by that defense. And they pushed them around, especially early on. Saw Caden Moore get some really good blocks on the interior. Brock had a good couple. Then he got called on a questionable hold. But...
We didn't see it. We did not see it. They did not show it. And, hey, listen, Lane Stadium fans are smart fans. And it was a big call of bullshit after that because we know, and folks, some of y'all probably were there tonight, and other of y'all have probably went. They'll show the play on the video screen. And it took about 30 seconds in, and you heard bullshit. So I'm thinking ESPN didn't share that because it was probably one of those flippy calls where it would have been like, you really called that a hold? That was the first down.
So, it looked like they ran, it looked like a hard slant into the play side, and Brock just kind of tried to get underneath and just kind of position his way in there. I didn't see him actually grab cloth or anything, so
Okay.
it is what it is. But I thought as a whole they held up pretty well. You, we didn't really give up a ton of sacks. That was my concern. I was looking at, maybe the right side won't be able to hold up in pass pro. Maybe the left side might have some moments of lapse because we've seen those troubles before. But overall, they held up across the board. There was only really one play. I think it was Silas Anzi had a whiff on that sack that Burmeister took, and then the other defender got in his face and shoved him for whatever damn reason after that. Like, yeah.
Well, that should have been a penalty, especially Danzy. The guy comes running at Danzy and he pops him. The play's over, and I'm sitting there like, "Hey, that's dangerous." Like, because he didn't see him coming, and the play's dead. Should have been a 15. We should have moved on, but we had to win the game with a few officiating errors, and we'll talk about a really special one later. But Brian, overall, you mentioned it, one sack. They gave up one sack. This is really good for me. 4 tackles for loss. 4. Yeah. And you always talked about the 2-4-5s as an aggressive attacking defense. To only say I'm going to get you the snap count total here. We had 63 plays. To say they were only in the backfield 5 times, they were in the backfield less than 10% of the time actually making a play. Now, hits and stuff, we obviously saw in the pick. That happened. And we saw on, the screen pass to Blackshear, which could have been a massive gain. It affected it. Yep. But again, we look at ours versus theirs.
And some of that was by design. They just had a good call into where we were running the screen.
Levick is kind of
by design. We're not going to block some of those guys. But we didn't expect them to get there as quick as they did.
And Leviticus whipped on the guy just a little bit. I think if Leviticus had put his back or just kind of gave the guy just a little punch, it probably would have been okay with the play. But I think it's also a thought as I'm running a screen. I'm the third line of defense because it was Caden and Silas out. Leviticus is back over here towards, right in front of Braxton. So I'm sure his responsibility in that screen would have probably been anybody coming from this way, try to get to him. Because
it's probably what we call a retracer. So a lot of times screens have a retracer. Well, usually it's the center of the backside guard, and they're essentially responsible to try to wall off any defensive linemen that have kind of read screen and are working their way back to where the ball is going.
Yep, but we always saw Caden and Silas. We saw Tyrell and Johnny play. Johnny took some time at right guard. Glad to see both those guys getting in the rotation. Also glad to see that Vice, and I know he rotates guys, but glad to see Vice that early because it was pretty early that they were in there. Trusted them early enough in the game to put both of those guys in there to get them some reps, which again, as we see that, it's like, okay, maybe we're okay. We're getting slowly better depth-wise.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. Let's flip over to the wide receivers and the tight ends. Trey Tay and Big Stone Gap had good nights.
Yeah, good nights across the board. Tay, 2 good rushes from the jet sweep. Had another catch that I think moved the sticks. We had all of James Mitchell's catches came in clutch moments, whether it was the touchdown, there was that grab down the sideline. I mean, it just seemed.
What about the one in the middle where he literally face-palmed, not one, he face-palmed 2 Carolinas to go 15 yards and get a first? I mean,
yep.
That play, that's going to rival the Eric Kuma facepalm of Quinn Blandon. 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good night, and then big play Trey, 2 key catches that were really
catch on
big.
the sideline, man.
Yeah,
that catch on the sideline,
and then that jet sweep to lock it up at the end there.
You saw him get it, and he ran like when you saw Trey run that play, and he was running hard. I was like, get down, and he was just. It was almost you could see the mentality of, no, I'm ending this right here, right now. I'm getting the first down. He didn't stop, and he eventually got the 12 yards. and he eventually got there. Let's talk about um, this. Let's look on the schedule, Brian. The next 11 games. And I know we don't know what everybody has yet, but just sort of between looking with Brett at Pick Six previews, looking at PFF, our just general knowledge about who we're playing, are we didn't have a lot of outside passes. We didn't have a lot of stuff going on tonight. Very good
Yeah.
game plan, while we're giving Corn credit. Are we going to face a more talented threesome of cornerbacks this year?
Probably not. No. Maybe the at least athleticism wise, Miami might be the next closest. But just in terms of overall ability and the fact that they've come along so quickly, I think this is definitely the most talented group, or I should say they are one of the most talented group. They are definitely the most physical group relative to that talent that will play. So Miami might be a little more seasoned overall, and still have some of that athleticism, but I don't think they're going to be playing that bully ball like North Carolina likes to.
I got you. Another thing tonight to notice, people, and we mentioned about Dwayne Lofton and we mentioned Jalen Jones and some of the other guys. We didn't see them tonight. We didn't see them on primarily offensive plays. We'd have to go back and look at the special teams play. If anybody knows how to get all 22s during the game, please message Boundary Corner Podcast so we can actually pull that feed in so we know where everybody is. But the game plan tonight, Brian, didn't dictate we were running up tempo, we were running fast, we were running where we needed multiples. The game plan was we were freaking waiting for the call to get in alignment about 14 seconds.
Yep. We were definitely playing ball control. We did not want Sam Howell to have the ball. We were taking our time. We were being deliberate with our play calling. We were being deliberate with our execution.
Absolutely. And Brian, and me and you talking here beforehand, it took me back to the Fuente or to the Oklahoma State game back in the bowl back in 2017. And that game was exactly like that. Exactly like that. We were slowing down. We were going to play very slow. You had James Washington, you had Mason Rudolph. They were a hell of a tandem. Oklahoma State scored a lot of points. And in that game, we lost 30-21. We also had in that game, if you can go back and recollect, Brian, we had a fumble inside the 10-yard line, which, wants to make you lose your freaking mind, because if you remember, it was early in that game, and I think we were up 7-0, where it's like, or we were up 7-3 or something like that, where it's like, if we score here, they're going to have to do things a little bit different, because they had Chuba at the time. Well, not Chuba Hubbard. They had somebody. They had a good running back. They had a good wide receiver core. And it was just like, we're slowing it to a snail's pace. If you're going to beat us, you're going to pop some big plays. That's fine. But you're going to have to do it, and your defense is going to have to suffer. Unfortunately for that game, we had crucial turnovers at different points in time. We had the fumble and we had an interception. Tonight, we only had one turnover.
Yep.
One turnover. We outgained them 3-1 on turnovers. We'll take that back. No, 3-2 on turnovers. So we're only +1 in the turnover category tonight.
Yeah.
So let's talk about BB3, the QB. What'd you think, Brian?
He had a pretty efficient night. Especially did a great job with his pocket awareness, with his knowing when to tuck and go, knowing when to keep eyes downfield. I like that he took a chance to thread the needle to James Mitchell on that touchdown. That was a ballsy play.
Ballsy play, but I think he saw Tay too. I think he felt like, one of my boys are going to get this. I'm going to fire this thing in there.
It went right past the defender's hand, and it was high enough where Mitchell could make the play. So I mean, it was a calculated risk, but definitely a ballsy throw there. And but I like the fact that he took that risk there. But the thing that impressed me the most was his pocket awareness and knowing when to move in the pocket, when to step up in the pocket, when to take off out of the pocket. He did a really good job there, and that extended some drives for us. Took what could have been a negative play or a no gainer, turned him into a 5 or 6 yard gain. I saw one in particular. He dropped back, looked like it was about to get sacked, stepped up in the pocket, kind of went down the line of scrimmage a little bit. More guys bearing down on him, took off, got a 7 yard gain. So I thought he was about to either throw it away or take the sack there, and ended up getting a 7 yard gain for us. So those type of plays are like the game within a game that quarterbacks kind of endure there, and I think he did a good job with that. Where he needs to get more consistent is obviously some of the short passes. We had one that ended up getting intercepted. You had a couple that
the screen to Blackshear.
Screen to Blackshear. Yeah.
Oh, that screen to Blackshear.
If that had been executed the way you want with just enough touch, I mean, he had room to run for days. So that would have been another big run there for us.
Same way with overthrowing the little swing route or the little half wheel. I'm going to call it the half wheel because we're throwing it like 6 yards. But the little half wheel, it was late in the game. If he hits that, Blackshear has about 15 yards up the sideline before probably the nearest defenders can get it. So he definitely has to work on that, Brian.
Definitely has to get more consistent. But there were things I did like with him throwing the ball, and that was some of the fades and some of the throws down the sideline that he made. There was that big one to Trey.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah,
that couldn't have been placed any perfect with the coverage.
Yep, and then he had the fade to Tay that got called back. The second fade to Trey that was PI that didn't get called.
That was Tony Grimes.
That was Tony. That was Joker.
It was Tony. He was hooking him. If they called Tay Daly's PI and they didn't call that, it's just like, what are you doing? Well, they're hand fighting. Like, no, he hooked his arm. Like, this wasn't hand fighting because Trey, you could see Trey was trying to get the arm like up. Like, he is literally stopping the arm.
Yep.
And say what you will, they call that and we're at the 1 yard line, we get in. And it's really
more than likely, yeah.
It's going to
call it jet sweep. Jet sweep to James Mitchell.
James Mitchell, give James a second touchdown of the night. I'm going to go back to something you just said a few minutes ago about Braxton and his pocket awareness and his scrambling ability. Is he Mike Vick, Tyrod, B. Rand, Mark? No, he's not. But he has an unbelievable scrambling ability. Do not sell it short. Do not sell it short that there are going to be times this year where, unlike the past, there's going to be times where it's like, shit, we're going to lose 4 yards here, that he's going to scramble, get out of it, and get a positive gain.
Yeah. He doesn't have that, like, the game breaker, that mentality that like a Vic had or that a Tyrod has, but he's got speed and, again, the awareness in the pocket to know when to take advantage of that speed. And I think that's going to be an asset for us.
He doesn't have their twitch.
Yeah.
He does not have their twitch. I will be full on with that. But when he recognizes that he doesn't have a pass play and he can get 2-3 steps, he can get going.
Yeah, he accelerates. He accelerates fast, and he's got pretty good top end. Like you said, the twitch, the being able to, take that one good move and turn it into a touchdown for 40, 50 yards. Haven't seen that from him yet.
There is going to be
he's got the actual speed to do that.
Yep, there is going to be one play that Brad Cornelison, Trey Turner, Justin Fuente, Jafar Williams, look at him. That design play where Trey kind of went out and ran a smash, he was wide open.
Yeah.
Because of the motion, and it pulled that safety over, and Trey beat his guy, and he missed it. If he hits that, and at the point in time, if he had hit that, Trey walks in, and I think at that point in time it would have been a 17-point lead. And I think we would have been like,
points. Yep.
All game.
Yep.
ball game.
That would have been the dagger at that point in time in the game, and just that's the ones you can't miss.
No, we got lucky tonight. We got lucky. We missed it. But also, Brian, we won 17-10.
Yep.
In this era of college football, we won 17-10. But you know what makes me feel kind of half bad, half good?
What you got?
We could have scored 31 points tonight.
Yeah, we definitely left points on the field. As big as this game was for us, we still left points on the field. This could have been a better victory for us than it was.
We could have.
So there's definitely room to grow, no doubt.
Well, and that's the piece. We could have blown the doors off them. They can't say that. They can't. Yeah. No Carolina fan can come and say, we should have beat y'all by 2 touchdowns. Bullshit. We should have beat y'all by 3, maybe 24 points.
Yeah, I mean, we had you at arm's length the entire game. And there was only there at the end was there even really the feel of the threat. Okay, well, this is going to happen. This might happen, whatever it is. Virginia Tech controlled the flow of that game from start to finish. And, missing a field goal, not getting a call, putting the ball on the ground. If you talk about the
passes.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up, this could have been really ugly. And to a point, you're like, well, that sucks. But to a point, it's almost like, no, this is good.
We'll get that shit on tape in a win against a big-time opponent and then improve on it from that point, right?
Damn right. First time in 7 years that we beat a top 10 team of any site. That was the Ohio State game.
Ohio State, yep.
First time since 2009 Miami in the rain that we beat a top 10 team in Lane. Justin Fuente gets another ranked win. And you know what? Can we just get like a month to prepare for every game? Can we play like 3 games? Because say it, Brian. Just say about what Fuente does.
He does a damn good job of preparing to open a season, especially against a quality opponent. And let's talk a little bit about trickle down here, because that's gonna matter, and we'll see how much it matters later. But it can't be undersold the impact that beating a North Carolina team that's been eating your lunch a little bit, especially in the off the field stuff. It's nice to get a victory and shut those fuckers up a little bit, right?
You're damn right.
And it's nice to get a little bit of momentum on that recruiting trail that you can point and say, hey, he might have a top 10 and a top 15 classes stacked back to back, but we still beat their ass.
We're beating all your high caliber. We're beating your high caliber guys. He's coming to Virginia. He's coming to the 7-5 and taking guys, and he's coming to the 804 and taking guys. We still whipping your ass. Mac's been there 3 years. He's 2-3. And the year he won was the most fucked up year in the history of collegiate football. In the history of collegiate football. It's never been anything like that before. We're out there playing with literally backups and guys who are having 1 day to prepare.
We got walk-ons out there, guys.
And let's just say this too, Brian, because this is the one that really, really, to me, even matters even more. We've been in the AC since 2004, right?
Yep.
Since 2004, UNC's beat us 4 times. 4.
Yep.
That's why you aren't a rival. You beat us 4 times. Go steal all the recruits. You don't know how to coach. And Max proved it. I'll say it. I'll say it aloud. He was having freaking top 5 classes at Texas his last 3 years there, and he was freaking barely winning 8 games.
I think the problem is that he's a decent coach and a damn good recruiter.
Yes.
And that only gets you so far against quality opponents. And we'll see if he ends up putting things together here in North Carolina. But, looking at this team, if they play the same way they played it today, I mean, that's at least a 3-loss team, right? at least a 3-loss team.
Well, we'll see how Miami looks tomorrow against Alabama.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how Alabama looks against there. They don't play Boston College. We do. NC State looked good last night. I think they played them this year.
NC State is a team to watch.
Damn right. That defense is nasty. I completely blew that.
And I probably would have said, if you told me last year that the NC State that we played in our first official game in 2020 would have been, number one, the NC State that finished the season, number two, the NC State that opened the season in 2021, they're going to make some noise. I'm looking out for them. I don't necessarily think they're ready to challenge Clemson.
Uh-uh.
But that's not a game that Clemson's going to kind of just by default. Okay, well they're the second best in our division of the ACC. We're going to kind of put the screws to them like we normally do and keep them moving.
Well, other things we're finding out tonight: Duke is bad.
Bad.
I will now have to really watch the West Virginia game, Brian.
Yeah,
because I told you we'd lose that one. You said
you told me we'd lose. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put my name on it. I was wrong.
But
Chris Stapleton. I was wrong.
Hold on. But what did you say would have to happen if we won this game?
Now, I told you the keys to victory. I was right about the keys to victory. I was wrong about the prediction. I was wrong on two fronts. I predicted we lose. I predicted that both teams would score in the 30s, and neither came close.
I think Vegas made a lot of money tonight because apparently the sharks were all over us. The general public was all over UNC. And I guarantee you, I think the line was 63. After what happened last year and then what happened 2 years ago, Vegas is about to build another building because of this game.
Everyone was hammering the over, and they came up well short. And they probably knew after halftime that was all bets were off on if they hammer the over.
Well, shit, we're not going to hit the over here. But okay, we're going to find out a ton about Miami tomorrow.
Yep.
We are going to find out a ton about Pitt next week when they play Tennessee. If Pitt looks like trash in Tennessee, the way Tennessee played last night, it's almost like this. I'm not worrying about them as much. And then
that's already one based on how much they lost in the offseason that I feel pretty good about. I mean, it's at least a pick 'em, especially in Lane. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle Tennessee. I mean, if that's an outright L, then you already start questioning it. If it's 10 points or more, that Pitt team could struggle. Again, they're going to live and die by what Kenny Pickett's able to do, which, I mean, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Pretty decent floor. He's not going to be awful because they need him to be something because they just can't run the ball. And
are you sure about awful? He scored 0 points the last time he stepped in Lane Stadium.
I'll say that was an awful outing for him.
I'll say that was awful. By the way, the last two times fans have been in Lane Stadium, the Virginia Tech defense is giving up 5 points a game with a full Lane Stadium. Let's just
stat of the day.
Let's look. Sarah, we're looking at some of the folks in the coast. We've looked at Duke, obviously bad. UVA, I don't think we find out much about tomorrow with playing William & Mary, except if they lose. Jesus Christ, they're going to be.
We don't know much about UVA unless it's a nail biter or they lose.
Yeah, but I think we find out a little more about them in not this weekend, but next weekend when they play Illinois. Although who knows where Nebraska is, but I think Brett Bielema's got something going in Illinois. Make fun of Brett Bielema all you want. I think the guy knows how to coach Big Ten football, and I think he probably is going to get them in the right direction. So, we've already got
to keep them competitive in that league. They may not win it, but
eventually they're going to get there. Eventually they're going to be a team that if he gets what he wants and does what he wants to do, it's one of those, fuck, I don't want to go play those guys. He's going to find 335-pound guys. He's going to lean the shit out of us. I don't want to play that. Brian, there's no way that your season prediction can be 100% correct. You have to be happy about that, right?
I do. I've already taken the L on that one, and so
actually, Brian's celebrating the L. Like,
yes,
these sons of bitches.
Hell yes.
Wrong.
Prove me wrong. Yeah, I mean, if they prove me wrong and keep the W train moving here,
yes.
Notre Dame's still going to be a struggle. Miami's still going to be a struggle.
BC's going to be a struggle.
Based on tomorrow night, I still like, especially after what I saw from fucking North Carolina today, I still like Miami to win the Coastal.
You did say that,
but we're looking better than I thought.
We're looking better than I thought because we've turned it back and it looks like a defense from the heyday.
We're playing defense first again, but with an offense that is dynamic enough to score points when it needs to. So if that formula can be carried across the board against the other big opponents that we have this year, and we don't have those letdown games that we occasionally have in the season, maybe this can be something. We'll see. But
we'll see.
Cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic is the frame of mind I'm in right now.
Hey, before we close it out here tonight, I'm really hoping that Game Day shows that tomorrow when they open up.
That's a big swing and the miss across the board.
All of you. Well, folks, unless something's broke, Brian, which I have not seen the last few minutes here.
Nope.
That's going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast on a winning Saturday morning. We've made it to Saturday morning. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Visit our website, boundarycornerbt.com, to listen to all of our episodes. While you're there, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple. We also have a YouTube page. Check it out. Por favor, you can always get this or the hype video that Mr. Siegler dropped just last night.
Yes, sir. 2021 season chiller is out there.
Sir.
Go check it out. It's on the website on the videos tab. Go give it a look.
Yes, it is. Now, if you are looking to join the Hokie Club and help achieve the Reach to Excellent campaign, please go to boundarycornerbt.com/giving to get started. Our buddy Jason Long is playing at Grandin's Farmers Market in Roanoke tomorrow from 8 to 12. If you're not hungover after what happened tonight, go check him out. Get some fresh fruit and probably a lot of other good stuff. It's like the Farmers Market here in Richmond. Have a nice Saturday of grilling out with some of the good stuff you can pick up there. Also check him out on Spotify and Apple Music. It's a winning, Brian. 1-0 start. Feels good.
Yes, it does.
As always, buddy, let's go.
Hokies!